Okay, I should have probably done this earlier, but let's make some corrections to the colors that we're using just to be a little closer to the series. So we left off with the linear accelerator. We finished building it, but we did not apply any colors to it. So these are not textures. These are pardon me, what they call materials. So let's change some of the material colors. I'm going to select something with a hull color on it, which I'm calling hull gray. And because I'm doing the production Enterprise, I'm going to click on this color. And based on what Gary Kerr researched when he was actually working with the Smithsonian, they sanded through layers of paint until they got down to samples or some that were spilled on the interior of the model, and they took some very good samples. So my hull gray, I'm going to make a production hull gray, and I'm going to go to RGB, and I'm going to change these numbers. So for production, that should be red, should be 153. Whoops. So I guess in this particular case, that's going to be 0.153, and followed by 0.160, and this should be 0.152, and we've got us a kind of gray. So we're going to save that, and then we're going to, for the viewpoint color, we're going to click on it, click this eyedropper, click this, and now our hull is gray. If you want a brighter one for what we're doing, you could use the pilot hull, which should be a little lighter. So that should be 0.146 and 0.153 and 0.159. Enter, and click this and sample and this. All right, well, still plenty dark. Maybe we'll go back to our original, go back to the production version. So let's make this brighter here. Make this, well, let's try 1.53, 1.60, and 1.52. Okay, that's a little brighter. Wow, it's actually too bright. Try this again. 0.153, 0.160, and 0.152. Enter. All right, so it certainly gives us a gray. All right. I'm going to lighten it up for our images just a little bit. I'm going to make my viewport color. I'm going to sample that. And that's, you know what, for right now, for our purposes, that's good enough. All right, so pardon me, everything with our hull color has changed to that. I don't want hull color for either the turbo elevator bridge nor for our linear accelerators. So for our turbo elevator bridge, I'm going to go in, I have that called dark hull gray. We're going to change that. So that should be, let's see, according to this, that should be 0.105, 0.115, and 0.104. That's pretty darn dark. We're going to sample that, and it's indeed dark. So again, I'm going to lighten that up just for now. We can always go back and change it. Sample that. All right, not too shabby. Now, we haven't done any of the others. We're going to do the dark gray accent, I think, or medium gray. Let's try medium gray accent for the linear accelerator and see how that looks. So we're not going to pick anything else that we have already made, although the temp triangle actually isn't bad. That would also be a medium or dark gray, but whatever. We're going to click on New Material. We're going to change the name to medium gray, and I'm going to click on the color, leave it in RGB, and change this to 0.164, 0.164, and 0.156. Enter. All right, cool. That is certainly a medium gray. We're going to pick a viewport color, select, pick it off of that, and it is certainly darker than the rest. I'm going to hit this upper part for the second part of our linear accelerator with the ailerons here, and I'm going to go through and I'm going to pick that medium gray. Okay, so those are the same. A to deselect, and not too shabby. All right, cool. We're going to move on, and we're going to move on to making the impulse engines. Oh, I've been dreading this. This will be fun. All right, so I'm going to go to a clear layer, 7, 5. We are in our orthographic view, 1 to see the side, and we're going to be concentrating on this thing, Control 3, to see this plan. Now, it's rounded on the edges, and it goes into the hull. So we've got Alan Sinclair's nicely drawn references that we have already set up, and you can see the rounded edges here and the rounded edges here. These front look different, but they're not. It's because of the angulation of the hull. See, this actually goes forward. It's not straight up and down. So it makes it look a little odd. Let's do some quick reviews of what it actually looks like. So you can see that it's rounded. It's not pinched here. And a lot of times what people do is they take a circle and then they stretch it out, or they take a cylinder and they stretch it out. And you get, because of the stretching, you get this odd pinched appearance here right in the center. We don't want that. We want it to be rounded. We want it to flare up a little bit and get larger as it goes in, and then match where it's supposed to match, where it meets the hull. Okay, so as it gets closer to the hull, it gets wider to the left and right, but thickness from top and bottom should stay the same, and it should be rounded in the back, although it's not perfectly circular. So not bad. It's an interesting shape, and then we'll have to cut in those windows and those 3 circles, which are of different size and shape. And I've seen people make some of them go in and out. But as you can see here is a shot of the actual model when they first took it apart for the first restoration. Let's go to 100% and move over as much as we can. And if you will notice, in the back right here, we actually have the impulse engine. It's been stripped of paint. They took off the textured cloth, and you can quite clearly see that that's a hole. It's kind of like drilling with a ball bit here, here, and here. They're different sizes. And actually, this gets much more complicated if you're going to make the second pilot version, where what they did was they painted over the existing detail to make it look like there were more recessed areas, but it was just painted. I've got another shot here. Go to 100%. And you see the same thing, but you see the curve, slightly curving of to match the hull, and the 3 spots cut in. So those are all impressions. None of them are extrusions. All right. So we've seen what it looks like. And let's go try, let's go try and make one. Alrighty, so Control 3 for now. Shift S cursor to center, just in case. Alright, what do we want to do is we do want to add either a cylinder or a circle. Tell you what, we'll make it a cylinder for today and see if we can do this. So I'm going to go up top, Shift A, mesh, and cylinder. All right, so we've got a cylinder, but we've got 32 verts, and we probably want to make this more complex. It'll be harder on us to model. We'll have to make more changes and so on. But it shouldn't be too bad. So if we make this 100, we've got 50 per side, 100, and it'll look nice and smooth even if we stretch it a little bit. Okay, cool. So now I'm going to go to 1. Oh, while we're doing this, let's make it smooth. And let's go to modifiers and add, of course, an edge split. All right, so it looks smooth. It's got a sharp edge. And we're going to rotate R 90 degrees. Bang. Control 3. Let's go to Z to make this transparent. And scale down. All right, so now it's in the center, all right, but let's grab Z and center this on that dot there. So the center of our cylinder is in the center of that central depression, the slightly smaller of the 3, and we're going to scale. And we're going to, whoops, let's scale bounding box center first, scale, and make it match kind of top and bottom there. That's pretty good. All right, so let's go back to 7, the top. We're going to grab X, move this out here, center up on what we're doing, and I want to make this slightly larger, so I'm going to scale X, grab X, and move it so that this line just so that the back edge here meets the back edge of the impulse engines. If we zoom in, I already see a flaw. I've got a center line here, and I really don't want that. Matter of fact, do I have that here as well? Center, and there's a line. Yeah, that's not so bad. But actually, hang on one second. All right, so actually, let's change that. 50 is not going to work. Shift A, mesh, cylinder. We're going to make it, well, 100. 100 is not going to work. But hang on. Let me think. If we make this 90, it's still pretty darn smooth. All right, as a matter of fact, let's hit smooth, and we know we're going to need an edge split modifier. But now we could rotate this in facets. I'm going to show you what I mean. Let's pull up a calculator here. And 360 divided by 90 is 4. 4 degrees for a turn. So if we turn it 2 degrees, we've done a half of a face. So I'm going to go to 7. And I'm just going to rotate 2 degrees and hit enter. Now, I know it doesn't look different from here, but let's go back to 1. Now, instead of having a line running down the center, we've actually got a face. So we're going to rotate 90, grab X, place it somewhere near here, Control 3, grab Z, center on that dot there so that we're fairly close to the center of the impulse engines. I'm going to scale, and we've already changed it so that we're not scaling off that center cursor. It's bounding box, so we're good. I'm going to scale a little more and just make it kind of match top and bottom. Grab Z, scale. All right, not bad. Now here's why this was important. If I go to 7, top view, we still have, really? A line running right down the center, which is exactly what I wanted to avoid. So let's go to Control 3, and I'm going to rotate 90 degrees. Now let's go back to the top. Perfect. We don't have an edge running down the center, which means this is actually the perfectly flat top. This one face here, if I Go to Edit Mode and pick Faces. This face is actually the very center, and it's flat from left to right. So if I go to Control 3 and leave that highlighted, you can actually see the face highlighted. It's right in the center, exactly where we want it to be. If we go to Vertices, we can see that 4 have been selected, and it's the same on the top. All right, so now if I wanted to, we could certainly oblate this cylinder. So that's kind of what we're going to do. We're going to tab out of this so that it's an object. I'm going to grab Y, and we're going to move it over here. Now, according to Alan's drawings, it starts to change right around here. So grab Y, and I'm going to put, we'll start it here. So the edge of this face is right here where this starts to thin out a little bit. All right, so tab. Let's try it this way. Let's grab from the center to the right. So B, and grab all these vertices. Now we're going to scale Y. So scale Y. And we're going to get this weird thing here because it's scaling off the center. I'm going to grab Y and move this out here. Okay, so it's actually too squat. So let's scale Y, move it back a little. And that's not bad. It ain't great, but it's not bad. I'm going to undo the whole thing. These ends are going to have to be have faces. So we're probably going to be doing some work on them. And I do want to split the model in half so we could mirror what we're doing. But that's going to take, say, putting an edge right in here along the center. Let's see if we can do that. Control R. Does not like that. Can we do it from the top? Control R. We did, but it didn't make one on the bottom. Control 7. Control R. And it's in exactly the same place. Okay, cool. So if I go back to Control 3, this and this represent the actual center of this object. So I'm going to deselect them. I'm going to pick everything to the left of the center. B, grab all the verts, X, vertices, we've deleted them. Okay, great. Now, let's try this again. Actually, you know what? Make it a little easier on ourselves. Tab. We're going to pick that exact center, B, those center verts, so that's actually 4 verts. We could make a face if we wanted. But we're going to Shift S, cursor to selected. Select all of our verts, so AA, scale, Y, and why isn't it? Oh, because I'm still on bounding box. I want to take advantage of that 3D cursor. So scale Y, and now, whoops, let's move this a little more like that. Scale Y. All right, so not bad, but not great. So I'm going to A. Now I'm going to select these verts here, B, right in the center. Okay, cool. So we're going to Shift S, cursor to selected. Control 3. let's turn on our proportional editing enabled. Leave it on smooth for now. And we're going to scale Z. If you use your mouse button, you can change how much of this you influence it. So we're gonna pick not quite to the ends, and I'm going to scale up. You know what? That's going to work. Now, of course, when we look at this, the front and the back are still the same size. And of course, we don't want that. We want the front coming all the way the heck out to here at the very least. So we're going to make some changes in a minute. But for right now, let's make life a little easier for down the line. We're going to manually make faces again. So you only want to pick adjoining vertices and make them on the same side. Like, in other words, I'm doing all in the back here. So if I was to pick, say, 2 adjoining vertices here and 2 adjoining vertices here, I'd make one hell of a face, but that doesn't look like what we want. And you have to be careful. Well, so, as a matter of fact, you can make it a little easier to understand by hitting Z so that you can see this, and you start to obscure things when you make a face. Makes it a little easier to understand a 3D object. And we're going to do this for both front and back. Oops. So that we're going to be left with a half of a cylinder that has been elongated but is not pinched at the ends. It more closely resembles our final object. Now, if you really wanted to do things right, you could also bevel the edges and so on, especially if you ever wanted to make a close-up image of the impulse engines. We can do that in a minute. All right, so I want you to do the same thing for the front and the back. Oh, and a reminder, as you do this, you're going to find, of course, because of the selections that I've had you made, the last one is sadly a try, but it's not that bad. And then go and do the same thing for the front. We don't need to make anything here yet. Not yet. Okay, and I'm wrapping up making faces on here. My last quad and my final try. Okay, so now A to deselect, Tab to go out and look at this. And you know what? That's not too shabby looking. We'll certainly be able to work with that. It's in the right place. And it's got pretty much the right shape. Now, all right, this, if I tab back in, remember we split this face here, and this face is actually the perfectly flat section of our impulse engine. So I want to pick these 4 vertices on the inner edge. And I'm not even going to extrude. I'm going to grab Y. And whoa, I forgot I left on my proportional editing. So we're going to go to proportional editing and disable. Thank you. Grab Y and move it till it kind of matches that center line there. As a matter of fact, if I hit Z, and we're going to, wow, I'm right on the line. I was going to grab it and move it, but I think that's actually perfect. All right, so now these 4 are still selected. So I'm going to Shift S, cursor to selected. We've got our cursor right in the middle of this what would be a face. It's not a face, though. Control 3, A and A. So now everything is selected. Tab to go into object mode, and I'm going to hit Z because I want to see this. And I'm going to add another modifier. So we want to mirror this. It's mirroring in the wrong direction, so we don't want X or Y. We, in theory, actually, we want Y. What's going on here? That's interesting. All right. Well, luckily we've got our cursor exactly where we need it, I think. So I'm going to rotate this and see if I can make them align. Rotate. Okay, so I'm tabbing out, and I want to rotate this back. It's not going to be perfectly correct. I'm trying to get it so that there's no... Okay, cool. Actually, right. I think this is actually our original side. If I hit tab, yep. Okay. So now... Tell you what, I'm going to rotate 180. Now the side that we're working on is back on the right. And what we want to do is we want to grab Y and make it so that these edges meet. Matter of fact, I want to turn on clipping over here. And we're going to zoom in as far as we kind of can and yet keep both edges on the screen. So I'm going to grab Y, move these closer together. Almost there. All right, so there's tiny little discrepancy. I'm going to rotate. Maybe not. Take a look down here. Could just be if I've got an angulation on here. I may have. All right, so let's rotate just a little like that. I mean tab. And is that flat? Actually, not too bad. I don't like how that looks, though. I'll tell you what, tab out, grab Y, make this line up with our center as best as we can. All right, and right, it does need to be rotated just a little bit, so rotate. So that center line is straight, and it's straight on both sides. Both sides now look equal. Grab Y, move that to a line on the center. Not bad. All right, it'll do. It'll do. All right. So let's go to Z and make it solid. No big gaps or anything showing. And because we did our work and made faces, it's now looking like a solid object. All right. Now the front, of course, is still not quite correct. So we're going to go 7. Z. Oh, let's apply this mirror. Let's move this up and apply. We have to tab out, apply. Okay, there we go. Now everything is selected. Everything's in one spot. And it looks like we've got a face right in the middle. Believe it or not, this is fairly easy to take care of. I'm going to go to, we can go to 7 or Control 3 or whatever you want. A to deselect all. What we're going to do is we're going to B, grab the center. I still want to keep something in the center, but we don't need a plane there. Actually, tell you what. Let's go to faces. Is there a face? There's no face in there. All right, so we're going to leave well enough alone. It's not bad. Control 3. Eventually, we're going to put windows in places. So I'm going to go back to vertices. We're going to impress something there. Now we could either cut something out, or I have another trick that we could do, and I should have done this before we went to all that trouble. So we're going to do it twice now. We're going to do Control R, and we can move this around, you see. So I'm going to Control R and put this right here, A, Control R, put this right here, A. We're going to do the same over here, Control R, left click once, move this into position, A, Control R, whoops, Control R here, left click once, move this into position, left click again, and it stays in place. Okay, cool. Now I want to do Control R going the other way. So Control R, left mouse click once, move this into position across the top, A, Control R, move this into position along the bottom, A. Now, if you hit Z and tab out, you don't see anything. Go back to editing. Oh, and it's all on the wrong side. So we're going to hit 7, tab. I'm going to rotate 180. Control 3 to make sure everything still lines up. It still does. That's pretty good. Tab to enter our edit mode, and we can actually see where we're going to have windows here and here. We might want to put one line right across the center as well. So Control R, left click and right mouse click, A. Okay, cool. Because we're going to cut out a circle here, then we're going to cut out some circles over on these sides. But the windows, the exhaust ports, right here, this square and this square, we're actually going to just grab faces and move them in, which will make things a lot easier when we go to make that. Here we're going to use some UV spheres and do a Boolean. But first I'm going to go to 7, B, select everything in the front, so there are no spots where we're going to put windows. 7. I'm going to go to 1. As a matter of fact, just for the heck of it, let's tab out real fast. I want to shift and click the first layer. We know that, okay, if I go to tab again, this front layer is already selected. Let's go to Z and it's already inside the hull. The only thing that's wrong is, well, no, we're going to have to move it forward in a little bit. I'll show you what I mean. Matter of fact, Control 7. Z, well, nah, just 7. All right, cool. And we can see where, the impulse engine is not lined up exactly where we want. I'm going to tab out, grab X, because we flipped the thing around, we changed its positioning. So now it's lined up with the back of the impulse engine. And now if we go to 1 and Z, you'll notice it comes out of the hull. Ha-ha! Okay, good. So 7, Z, tab. We've still got our forward faces selected. I want to go to Control 7, Z. So I've still got those vertices selected, but I'm going to grab X and move them into the hull. Just enough that they're just inside. Well, we're actually going to have to do this a couple of times, so maybe that's not a great idea. Let's go to 7, Z, and let's grab X and make it so that when we're done, we're going to at least come in just past these edges. I'm going to scale Y and make this larger. Now, Notice I'm making it so that the outside edge just aligns with Alan's green line coming in. It's going to make this a little more pointed inside, but if we go to Z here and tab out, it's not actually noticeable. So you know what? This will do. We're going to tab back in edit mode, A to deselect that forward section, Control 3, and now we're looking at where we're going to put in windows, right? Or insets. Now you could do this by cutting things out if you wanted to, but in this case I just want this face and this face here, see, and then shift right mouse click here and here, because that perfectly matches our exhaust ports or whatever. So I'm going to go to 7, and we don't want these to go in real far. So we're just going to do E, and X is already selected by default. You can see the line. I can't move up or down. And I'm only going to move in a little ways. Okay, let's take a look at this. Z, or scroll around to the front, A, and tab. Okay, so we can see that they're there. They're not real pronounced. That's fine. We've got that gap between the linear accelerator and the impulse engines. That's good. The only thing that's left are cutting in the 3 holes, which we're going to do with UV spheres. And then we'll make this all look a little more prominent, easier to understand what we're doing. So A to deselect, Shift S, I want my cursor to the center again. And we're going to add, right now we're only going to add Shift A, 1 UV sphere, mesh UV sphere. All right, now we don't need this to be really smooth. It's not like we're going to leave it like this. It's going to be very small. As a matter of fact, let's hit smooth shading, and it's small enough that when we reduce this even tinier, it's going to look very smooth indeed. So I'm going to go to 1 Z, because I don't want to cut it out like that. I actually want this point at the top and bottom to be at a right angle. So rotate 90 degrees. All right, and then we're going to grab X and move this out towards the back end of the impulse engine. We're going to scale, whoops, we're going to change this to, I apologize, bounding center, scale down. Control 3 to take a look at this. I'm going to grab Z, and we want to center it on that center circle here. Grab Z, move that up just a tad. Okay, cool. Now we're going to scale this down so that it matches that. Okay, cool. So that actually looks like it's about right. Okay. Now, Z, we're going to Shift D, grab Y, move it out here. That's interesting. Alan's got these being the same size. I've still got my references up. Let's take a look. To me, this looks smaller, and this on the other ends looks slightly larger. So, with all due respect to Alan, I'm going to keep these as the larger ones. Shift D to duplicate it, grab Y, move this over here. All right, let's take a look at this from 1. Oh, I've got them too far inset. All right, so I'm going to grab all 3. One of them is selected. I'm going to Shift, right mouse click, Shift, right mouse click, go back to 1. I want this center of the object to be right at that line. Matter of fact, I'm going to zoom in as close as I can at the moment. And you know what? We've got a center line. So I'm, again, all due respect to Alan's plans, I'm going to grab Z, make it line up with right in between the two, maybe the slightly off here, and then grab X. All right, should not be noticeable. If anything, err on the side of caution with the center line just outside the back end of the impulse engine. All right, cool. A to deselect them, Control 3. Now I only want to grab the center one because I believe it's actually fractionally smaller than the other two. I'm going to scale, move this down. Let's take a look at that picture again. It's like it's 1/3 smaller. All right. So now that's about 1/3 smaller. Okay, so it's not a huge difference, but it's got some difference. All right, cool. I want to go to Z so that we are not in transparent mode. I want to grab my impulse engine so it is highlighted. And we're going to go to Add Modifier, Boolean. We've got intersect. We don't want intersect, we want difference. Pick the selector and just grab that center ball. Okay, cool. We're going to apply. God help me, I hope that works. I'm going to select the center ball, move, and we're going to just move it to another layer. Okay, cool. We're going to do that again with each of the other two. Make sure you have your impulse engine selected. Add a modifier, Boolean, difference, selector, ball, apply, select the ball, move it out of the way, select the impulse engine, add modifier, Boolean, difference. As a matter of fact, let's move this up. I think you're actually supposed to do it up top. Selector, ball, apply. We're going to select the ball, move the sphere, move it out of the way. And now we've got, cool, deselect everything. It's very high poly by comparison. Let's move out to vertices so it's a little easier to see. And it's nicely lined up. We've got 3 inset hemispheres at exactly the right spot. So I'm going to, so this impulse engine assembly is selected. Tab, A to select everything. Let's remove doubles. There were actually 2. And just to be real sure, I'm going to go to Mesh, Normals, Recalculate Outside, Tab. Okay, that's not too shabby. We're going to go to our materials here and select the medium gray. And then just to differentiate some things, I'm going to hit Tab. Let's select faces. I'm going to select this face, this face, this face, and this face. I wonder if I can do this. Can we make those black? Would we affect the whole thing? I think so. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to Shift D and right mouse click. So now we've duplicated those faces. I'm going to go to 1 for a view, Z to make it transparent. I'm going to grab Y and move it just, hey, grab Y. Nope. I think I have to like unparent these things. So P, separate by selection. Okay, I'm going to hit Tab, and I'm going to click in what have I got selected here? All right, so if I wonder what I did wrong. I don't seem to have done anything there. All right. I could brute force this. I don't want to. So if I pick the verts that make up the back, it's the same as picking the faces. Shift D, grab, whoops, let's grab X, grab X, there we go. Okay, so grab X, and move it just a little bit. Now, I want it separate from the back. There we go. So P and select, and I've got this one window here. Now, I can take that. I'm going to delete the, whoops, tab, and I'm selecting this face I've just made, these two faces. I'm going to get rid of the medium gray on it. Do we have a black? We do not have a black yet. So we're going to do a new material, call it black. I'm going to go to color. We're going to make it almost black, so not quite down to the bottom, and just like a really dark gray. Okay, and we're going to grab viewport color selector, grab that dark gray. Cool. So now if we go to Z, that's different. All right, we're going to do the same thing over here. I've selected my impulse engine again, tab. We're going to pick all the verts, make up the back of the window here. Okay. 1, Z, Shift D, right mouse click once, P, selection. Okay, good. Tab. Impulse engine is already selected, so we're going to click like we're going to try to click that back window, and we grab it, go to 1, and I'm going to zoom in here because I want it to be at as close to exactly the same level as this other window here. So we're going to grab X, move it out here to match. Okay, cool. We're still in materials, so I'm going to delete the medium gray, select black, and we are done. So I'm going to A to deselect, Z to make it solid, and take a look at that. We've got impulse engines. Later on, we're going to want to duplicate this impulse engine housing out here, and we're going to make a separate duplicate thing, a mesh around the outside only for texturing. Let me show you. This texture here, which does not go all the way across. So when you look at it, this is actually, it looks like a thicker section on both ends, right? This is old and it's starting to peel away. But we're going to accomplish this mesh with a texture later on. But all we have to do is duplicate the outside. All right, cool. That's enough for this one. Let's go back here and save our work. File, save. And tell you what, I'm going to go to Shift, include the layer with our cameras and lights. And we're going to add a new one. Control 3, A to deselect everything, Z to make it transparent, Shift A, pick a camera, 7. I'm going to scale that down. Scaled it too small. There we go. I'm going to grab X, move it out the back. Actually, you know what? That would be fine and all. Control 0 to make that the view, Z to see what we would see if we were to render it from here. And that's nice and all, but I want a slightly different, slightly more dramatic angle. So I'm going to go to 7. I'm going to Shift D because I want something similar to this. Grab X, Control 0, 7, rotate. But I want it rotating off the center 3D cursor. Rotate. All right, cool. So now we've got it at an angle. Control 0. Nice. And hit F12. I'll be back when this is done rendering. Now, I don't think I'd actually save this to show progress because I'd probably want to add another sun or some kind of light from the back because it's going to make some weird artifacts since we're doing things really precisely with lighting. And that's not how real situations are lit. So let's add, let's go to F11 to get, F11 to get out of here. And let's go to 1, Z, A, deselect everything. And let's grab one of these suns. Grab the bottom one. Okay. So Shift D, we've grabbed a sun. We're going to rotate, move this back, and just slightly out of the plane. But now we're lighting it from the back. Now let's go to Z and see how that looks. That's not too shabby. It's not right on. All right. And hang on. Okay, tell you what, let's move out of orthographic into perspective. Move around a little here so we can just barely see that cutout section of light here. Maybe rotate Z. Nope. I want to rotate along about like that, I think. And I'll show you why I'm doing this. All right. So now this is almost like taking a picture in and of itself. But it's now in pretty much the same orientation as this picture from the Trouble with Tribbles. And it's been lightened a little bit. That's why the background looks so washy. But that's not what I'm doing this for. We want to see if what we've built so far resembles this image. So let's jump back into Blender. Okay, so let's move up. Let's see, can I move up? If I make this a camera, all right, let's see if we can do this. I'm going to make that the active camera. There should be a view. And then a line. Line view. And that should be align active camera to our view. Ha! Not too shabby. All right, so let's position this a little differently. Grab X, move this further away, grab Y, grab Z. Let's take a look at our reference image again. Okay, we're getting there. Rotate Y. Then probably grab Z. Let's take a look at that. Not bad. Okay. We'll probably rotate Y a little more. We're not going to, since I don't know what cameras they used, grab X, grab Z, rotate Y. Since I don't know what cameras they used, it'd be impossible to really match this right now. But for our purposes, not bad. All right, so I'm going to render this out, F12, and I'll come back when it's done. Okay, the render, fast as it was, is already finished. And you can see, even though we haven't taken any time to match lighting or anything, our image fairly closely resembles this. So we've got our impulse engine. It leads off into the back of the saucer, just like the real thing. We've got the three spheres cut in, just like the real thing, and this one is actually more prominent than the other two. You can hardly see. We've got the impulse exhausts here, just like ours, and we've got the baseball bat leading up and curving into the hull, again, just like the real thing, leading up towards the BC deck, bridge, turboshaft elevator, and the top sensor. So all in all, not bad, fairly representative. We'll probably, if we want to match that trouble with tribbles, we would have to make this bridge, the sensor dome on the top of the bridge to be taller, but for right now, this is just fine. F11 to get out of that, unless you wanted to save it. We're going to file, save all of our progress, and in the next tutorial, I'll come back and we'll do the one cut in the front of the saucer, and then we'll move on to another section, another major section. Thanks for sticking with it, and I hope you're happy with your progress. See you next time.